I was going to ask you first, what was the first racket you ever owned, and how did you get it? Did your parents give it to you, or how did you?
Yeah, I think the first one I ever owned was a hand-me-down from my brother, and I'm sorry I couldn't tell you what it was.
What's important to you now in a racket, and what do you string at, like tension? What kind of string do you use?
Well, I look for most in a racket a lot of feel and a lot of control, and definitely my Dunlop gives me that. I string around 55 or so. It'll depend on the week and the speed of the courts and the balls and everything, but usually somewhere around 55.
What kind of string?
I use natural gut and polyester.
Do you adjust the racket at all depending on the surface or depending on the time of the year, or are you pretty much going with 55?
Yeah, well, I always use the same racket, obviously, but then the strings, like for instance, this week I think I strung around 50, 55, and then last week in Indian Wells I strung a little bit tighter because the ball was flying through the air a little bit faster. So I think last week was maybe around 57.
Saw earlier San Jose, you had a really good result, beat Nishikori, and then like you said, Indian Wells qualifying, you gave Cole Schreiber a great match, and he had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
What did those results do for your confidence? And is there any match in the last year or so that really was not a turning point, but just a match that gave you a lot of confidence or made you feel like, hey, I belong out here?
Well, it was obviously Indian Wells was a good run. Had a little bit of a heartbreaker there against Cole Schreiber. But I would say last year in the summer I played Andy Murray at the LA Open, the Farmers Classic,
Sure.
And I took a set off him and had a pretty good 3-set match with him. And I thought right then was a little bit of a turning point. I felt like if I'm playing close with a top guy like that, maybe this is something I can do.
You're at your career high right now. What's the goal for the rest of this season and going forward?
I think by around the US Open I'd like to be top 100. I'd like to get straight into the US Open, so that's one of my main goals for this year.
What's the biggest adjustment or improvement you've made from turning pro till now, and what are areas you're trying to improve as you go forward?
Well, when you turn pro, it's a huge adjustment just because going from juniors and ITF events to playing the futures and the challengers and everything, it's a totally different game. And it was a big adjustment for me just because tennis was a profession and a career as opposed to before when I was a junior. It was just playing a game. Yeah. So what was very helpful and what I've been doing better is just treating tennis like a full-time job.
What about the experience of Davis Cup, being a practice partner there? And I know from what I've read, you've practiced with Fish, you're hit with those guys. How did that help you? And just in general, everyone always talks about American tennis, but it seems like those older guys are pretty good in helping the younger Americans. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty close with James Blake and Marty Fish, and going to the Davis Cup and being a practice partner was just huge for me. I got to be around James and Andy Roddick and the Bryan brothers, and just seeing the way they prepared for that weekend and really just how professional they were. I think that was a huge help. And you see the other Americans in the locker rooms. They're always very helpful, and if you have a question, they're always up for offering advice and stuff.
What do you feel your strength is as a player? What's a key quality that got you to this point that you're at right now?
I think that my speed is one of my main weapons, and I think just the last year or so I've been really fighting a lot more and competing a lot better, and when maybe if I don't have my best tennis on one day, just being able to compete and fight my way is
Do you learn, like you mentioned the Cole Schreiber match earlier, do you learn more from the losses, or can the wins help you as well? Because people always say, God, the losses are tough to get over, but you really learn from them. How is it for you?
Well, I like to, I'm trying to think now that I have to learn more from losing that match, and it has to mean something. So I think I could have learned from a win too. But you gotta, definitely in this game, you're going to take a lot of losses unless you're Federer and Nadal. So
Just about every week you're going to lose.
just about every week. So, you know, unless you're learning something from those losses, then it's kind of a waste.
Last two things. One thing I read in your bio that you grew up playing violin. How dedicated were you, and is there any, you know, sort of similarity between a discipline that's a really demanding instrument and tennis? And
Yeah, you know, I played violin for 11 years, and I hated every minute of it. But my parents really, you know, made me stick with it, and they knew I wasn't going to have any sort of a future in violin. But I think that they were looking at it as more of a discipline thing, and I think it really helped me. And you know, just every time now I have to, you know, do something that I don't want to do. It's just I've had some practice.
yeah, right. 11 years. Last thing is there any lesson you've learned just from playing tennis, either professionally or just recreationally, that sort of helped you in life? Any sort of thing that you've gained from experience? You know, not just the playing, but the tour travel, everything that goes with it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that tennis has really taught me how to work hard, and I can take that into anything that I'm going to do after tennis.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.